Welcome to Patchworks Pod. My name is Elizabeth Palmer. With my co-host Tyler, the dog.
Yep.
Who's involved everywhere. My guest today is Emi Matsushita.
Ooh. Of course you would say it well, but I still get impressed.
Oh, thank you. I've got such a weird name. I really want to say people like my name growing up is Elizabeth Clute. So I just got all kinds of weird stuff. And I just really appreciated when people took the time to say it correctly.
Yeah.
And I've had enough exposure to other cultures at this point that I can do it. So I'm like, I might as well make an effort.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I appreciate it.
Could you do like a 60-second commercial of you right now, currently?
60-second
and then we
commercial.
Can dig in,
All right.
deeper.
My name is Emi, and I am a creative entrepreneur. I make my life and livelihood around creative projects and initiatives and ideas that are birthed from my brain. So that means I do anything from educating. I also perform as a movement artist. I also create events and productions. And I am also a mom. So there's a lot of creativity that is involved with that. And I'm always aspiring to be a better person because I feel like the more that I grow personally, I can show up that way professionally and also just as a human. And that's me in a nutshell.
So you, creative entrepreneur around dance. Why? Why did you do this? Why are you here today?
Why did I choose the creative entrepreneurship path?
Yeah.
Well, it's not for the faint of heart. So it's something that, I had to deliberately choose. And I think it really came about because that's kind of what I've been doing my whole life, in essence, even though I've been I have like a long work resume where I worked in different types of jobs in different industries and whatnot. And I slowly through those experiences, I realized that, I like creating things of my own. And I would do that in whatever role I'm in. And then as an artist, as a performer, dancer, I mean, any artist, you're creating things that haven't existed before. And so I'm like, that aligns very closely with entrepreneurship, which I guess I didn't realize that was like the definition of entrepreneurship because, in your artist self, in your artist world, you're focusing on your art and like the business world is like a whole other miles away mostly. And so once I realized and I made that connection, I was like, okay, so I can actually commit to this thing at full time.
I'm so interested in I think people see creative entrepreneurship and like working in the arts as such a nebulous thing because it is a little bit nebulous. Like we are working in something that is hard to commoditize in a lot of ways in a world where we have to make money to survive.
Mm-hmm.
What is that like for you?
Oh man, what is it like? I think there's like being a creative entrepreneur is like a double-sided coin, right?
Mm-hmm.
On one side, that nebulousness that you mentioned is like, that means there's like infinite freedom and infinite possibilities. Yeah, exciting. But then the other side of the coin is like, oh my God, what do I actually do with that? And how do I actually take one step to the next, to the next, to the next? And so I feel like the whole experience of being a creative entrepreneur, you're like riding that wave, right? One day you're like, yes, amazing, I can do anything, I take on the world. And the other side is like, I don't know if I can curse, but poopy, like oops.
There have been
I don't know what to do.
Anything said on this podcast.
Okay, cool.
You're welcome to
Thank you for the permission.
Whatever. Yes.
Yeah, because anything is possible, but then what do you do with that endless possibility is like the other struggle. And then the thing about what you mentioned, commodifying our art, commodifying what we create, that's a whole other discussion to have about like, there's trains of thought where people think that creating art, that's it. Like that's the end point. You
Right.
just create to create. And there's like this self-indulgent kind of satisfaction you get as a creator to make something and put it out there.
Yeah.
And that should be like the end of the story. And then
Yeah.
there's the other train of thought where like, okay, well, yeah, we have to make a living. So like, how do I actually make money from this thing that we created? And we're putting time and energy into it. So we should be returned with something. And then there's other people that are like, oh, well, when you do that, then you're selling out
Yeah.
or whatever. And you're like editing things. And then the point of making art doesn't become making art, it's making money. And so there's so much to navigate around those like questions, and obviously I think it comes down to like just your intention with it all.
Yeah.
I think there's a time and place for everything. I think there's a time to make money from your art, and you can, I don't want to say conform, but shift a little bit to accommodate that for that. And then there's time to create, just to create and be indulgent.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, I feel like artists end up between, or any creatives end up between a rock and a hard place. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter who you are or what you do. Any person off the street has an opinion about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And depending on how visible you are, their opinions are going to be, louder in some cases.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine having like fame and just constantly being scrutinized for every single creative thing that you do, because like you said, people will accuse you of selling out or being too weird for them or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you have any personal like rituals or things you do to help you maintain that balance?
Ooh. I think rituals is like a strong word that I don't know if I would label my actions as such, but I definitely do like things to make sure that I'm in balance. So like as a mover, as a dancer, I definitely take time. Now, I don't want to say every single day because that's optimistic. But most days I will, especially nowadays when we're like on our computer all the time, I try to like schedule a time where I get up off my chair, off my butt, and I will like Bluetooth my speaker and I'll turn on a song. And like my intention is only to move for a little bit, but then I end up moving for a little bit longer, which is fine. So that carving out that time to just like move, just to like release and just to be present with my body and like also shake off whatever else has been accumulating energetically. I think that's like a good practice for me to just tap into myself. But then other, I guess, rituals or activities that I try to incorporate in my life is just to make it a habit to like connect with other creatives, because yeah, I think it's really easy to be isolated in your creative craft. But it's really important to continuously seek connection with other people, and also that connection provokes inspiration. And then you start seeing, whether it be possibilities of how to monetize your work or just possibilities of what else I can explore and create just for funsies. I think like making it time and intention to connect with other creatives, and yeah, having a little bit of time where you're like, this is just for me and I just want to do this because it feels good, is like the two main things I like are my rituals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you even like I feel like there's so many talented creatives out there. How do you find people? But then how do you decide like who am I gonna, do you just say with every creative person you meet like, oh, let's hang out, let's be friends? Because that's what I tend to do. I'm just like any interesting person, I'm like, do you want to be friends with me?
You're a friend whore.
But then I find that the people who I, really vibe with, or the people, I mean, other parents are like, I tend to connect with a lot, or people with similar backgrounds.
Right.
But I'm curious if you are more discerning from the get-go, or if you tend to be like, everything is possible.
Ooh, that's a good. Yeah, obviously that's a spectrum, right? So I feel like most of the time, like I approach most situations like, oh yeah, anybody can be my friend. Anything is possible. Any conversation can be had with anybody, and I can learn from them. Awesome.
Mm.
But I think there's still like a layer of discernment that arises in moments where I'm like at like a networking event or something like that, where you just like have this like feeling where you're like, we're not really vibing, you know? And it's just like, and in those particular situations where you're like in networking people and you're like, you're like making a bunch of connections, you just have to decide on like who to spend your time and energy with. And then so in those moments where I'm like, I don't think we're connecting, you know, and it's not worth it for me to like find that connection and force it. So I like will use my inner intuition to just kind of be like, okay, that's not working. And they probably feel it too, honestly.
Sure.
You know? But yeah, creatively, I think I start conversations with a lot of people, but all of those conversations don't always end up in a relationship. So I'm generous with my asks and my, inquiries to be like, hey, let's collab or let's do a coffee date or let's do this or that. And then the people who are like me, they're the ones that say yes, let's do it. And then I'm like, yeah, those are the ones. Those are my people, you know?
You are a mother, and your lifestyle and everything, you've like managed to build that up around parenting. And I think we've talked about this before, but it's just like it's so interesting to try to. I think one of the things I've been thinking about recently is like how I spend my time. So there's like obviously this idea of like I'm not going to stay awake until 2 or 3 in the morning working anymore because usually I'm up like really early with a child's foot in my face.
Yep.
So I'm a lot more careful about my time and how I'm spending it, or like I want to be better at just running my business in general, so I'm more efficient with the time that I have. But also, I'm like, wow, I need time for myself to be creative. When the heck is that going to happen? And I'm curious if you've been able to find, I don't know, balance feels like the wrong word because it makes it sound like everything is in equal portions, and I don't think that's possible when you have a child. But like, how do you decide when you're gonna like do parent things and when you're gonna take time for yourself, and then when you're actively gonna like work or make a living?
That's like a boundaries discussion, right? And like setting up boundaries.
Do you have good boundaries?
No. And I don't know if it's like possible to have good boundaries as a parent, honestly. Because like you're expecting a little human to like have enough discretion and awareness to be like, oh, you're off right now. And I'm not gonna bother you. So that's it's pretty much impossible. But I think like when it can be efforted to create some sort of line in the sand, I try to. And it's mostly like the boundaries are all mental. Like I'm like choosing to turn my brain off of like ideating and planning and to do task lists.
That's so hard.
Which is hard. Yes, exactly. Especially as creatives, where we're like, our brain's always going. But then, when I'm sitting with my child and I'm trying to like play with him, I'm like, I'm here. I have to like literally repeat the words, like, I'm here right now. I'm here right now.
Yeah.
I'm here right now. And then I like try to like engage with him and ask him questions about whatever he's doing, building a train track or racing cars or whatever. And I like have to really force myself to like mentally be there. But that's a work in progress.
Yeah. And I find myself like constantly, I'm like, this is the most fun and important and best job in the world to parent. It's the best. And I'm still constantly having to remind myself, wait, we're here now.
Yeah.
Let's be in the moment,
Yeah.
which is crazy to me because like this is, I mean, it's like the best thing ever.
I
Like,
know.
what am I doing?
I know.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you could just get rid of the rest and like just focus on being a mom. And
Yeah.
like that'd be fulfilling.
Well, would it? Do you
Well,
think you
you
could
know,
have enough
no.
creative?
No.
Yeah.
I say that, but like some people do exist in that reality.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
they like are like, this is it, this is the end.
And there's a lot of creativity in that.
Oh my God, totally.
Schedules and
You don't have to look far on social media to see what moms are doing to like entertain and educate their children and organize their lives. I'm like, whoa.
yeah.
Whoa. Yeah. I think it's just I think it also is a question of ambition
Mm-hmm.
and like just being an ambitious person
Mm-hmm.
naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Like I always want to do more. And so that translates in all of the areas of my life. Parenting. I want to do
Yeah.
more. I want to be more present.
Yes.
Business wise. I wanna expand, I wanna scale, I wanna like debut another product or whatever, service. Personally. Like, oh, I wanna like eat better and I wanna sleep better. All these
You want to
things.
be the best at everything that
I know.
do. Is that too much to ask?
I know, right? Can't we just do it all?
Can't we just be the best at everything?
Yeah. Hundreds.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, you have to be realistic and be like, okay, like what? Somebody, I don't remember where I heard this, but like, it's with the creatives in particular, like we have this limitless in our spirit, in our soul, in our creative brain. It's limitless. There's no capacity. There's no ceiling, right? It's all everywhere. But like, we're living that experience in a physical body that is like limited. And so like, okay, there we go. There's like something to consider. You know, we literally cannot do it all.
Yeah.
Because we need to feed our body. We need to go eat, sleep, poop, pee. All of those things need to be done.
Those things are going to happen.
Yeah, and those are limits.
Yeah.
So like,
outside of the things that you have to do to keep your body healthy and your child happy and healthy, like do you have other things that you're like, well, you talked about the movement. Are there other things that you're like, okay, this has to be part of my life? Like this is a no compromise.
Oh yeah.
Thing.
That's a good question, because I think that also taps into like, what else do you need to be living a happy, full, satisfied life?
Yeah.
Which most people think it's just like, yeah, basic human needs met. Cool. Mental health, cool. But for me, I realized that like I need, what's the word? Novelty. I need that to feel good. Yeah. So like going to like a new coffee shop, taking a new route to work or school, trying a new food, meeting a new friend, sitting down and, journaling or like playing outside, going on a hiking trail. Like all of these things to me break up my routine. And like those, I need them to like spiritually, emotionally, like feel good. And that's probably because it's like stroking my little like creative brain and like being like, yeah, look, there are things happening.
Yeah. I see it as like I try to find ways to make my life feel a little more not glamorous, but in some ways it's like, oh yes, I'm the kind of person who goes and works at a coffee shop. How European of me, or whatever it is. Oh, I'm the kind of person who likes to go on hikes, or whatever it is. It's like this version of me. If I can find ways to like live into the version of me that I want to perceive myself as, then I feel like I can do other things, or like it helps me to get in the right headspace to be able to actually make the creative stuff happen, or get through the tedious stuff of like, oh, man, I've got to go and categorize my transactions.
Right.
At least if I do it in a fun place.
Yeah.
It's going to be better.
Ooh, I like that you said that, because about like giving your It's like you're like giving feedback to your body and brain, being like, "Look, we're doing cool things. We are cool."
Yes.
Almost, right? You're
Yeah.
like constructively creating your reality based on data and feedback that you're you're like observing.
Mhm.
And that's really clever because like yeah, like we should be looking for things that we want to validate within ourselves as far as like we create our own reality. So like look for things that like validate and acknowledge and confirm the reality that you want to live in.
Mhm.
So like for us having this conversation about like boundaries and parenting and creative aspirations, like maybe it's not the most helpful. I mean, we're being realistic here, but
Yeah.
like yeah, like how can we rewrite our narrative, I guess, about how we show up as parents and creatives and being like, oh, like I am a creative and I am killing it. I am a parent and I am actively learning how to create boundaries
Mm.
around that,
Mhm.
or vice versa.
Yeah. You're
So,
telling yourself a story, the
yeah,
story that you want for yourself.
yeah. Instead of saying I suck at boundaries.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am learning boundaries.
Gosh darn
I'm
it.
getting better at boundaries. And I think that is great that you're
Yeah.
figuring it out because
Yeah.
we are not, as women and former religious kids, where it's not something we're not taught how to have good boundaries around ourselves or like our emotions or anything like that. We're just taught like push down everything that's unhelpful and then be this version of yourself all the time. So relearning something different is hard, but
yeah.
sounds like you're doing it every day.
Trying.
We're
It's
doing
a process. It's a process.
It's so hard.
Yeah, but I also like I will say, I turned 40 recently. Yeah. Woo. And I do think that there's like this like cosmic shift that happens that I'm like, okay, now that I'm in a new decade, like this is where it's gonna get good. Like I'm already like putting this intention out there where I'm like, okay, I'm ready now.
Best
like
decade
game
yet.
on. Let's do this.
Yeah.
So when you get there in a few years.
Like
Hopefully
10 or 12
yeah,
years.
tots. 10.
I think having a kid as well, it kind of changes like when I'm able to like get out of the nitty-gritty of daily life, I'm like, what kind of person do I want to help my child be? And usually that's like independent, able to express his emotions, able to set good boundaries with other people. And like, if I'm not doing that for myself, how is he gonna learn that? Like, none of us. I'm sure there's some stuff we learned from like listening to our parents, but how much more did we learn from observing our parents and how they interact with the world?
Oh man, that's the truth.
Yeah, I was watching a conversation between a mother and daughter about body image, and the daughter was like, you never said anything to me about my body, but I heard every time you criticized a picture of yourself or like said something about yourself when you looked in the mirror, and I was like, oh, that's interesting because I notice how my mom talks about herself when she sees pictures, and I'm always like, no, mom, everybody like this is a message that you're telling yourself, but also the people around you. And I feel like I'm immune to it at this point, but now she's got grandkids, and I'm like, okay, we need to ixnay the negative self-talk when we're looking at pictures of ourselves when the grandkids are around, at least, because they don't need to know that kind of criticism of yourself is even a possibility.
Right. That is even accessible.
Yeah.
Oh.
Only good things.
I know. Only good things.
We're doing great.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because like with us, or I mean like human development as a whole, we learn by absorbing and not necessarily listening. So it is like parenting is such a humbling experience where even just the conversation that you're having with yourself about like, well, how do I want Oliver to be when he's an adult? Oh shit, like I have to do that myself. I actually have to do that myself.
Right.
And so it's like
actively
right now. But parents like get really upset at their kids because they're not X, Y, and Z, but then it's like, whoa, 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 are you X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, oh no, I'm not.
I get
So
so emotionally, I feel triggered whenever Oliver has any like big, when he's like, no, I don't want to do that, or like just big outbursts. And I actively I try to say, like, I hear you, I understand you're frustrated, whatever. We still have to do it. Try to like move on and help him feel those things without
Yeah.
squashing them. But internally, I'm like, how dare you talk to me that way? And it's because I didn't get to be angry when I was little.
Yeah.
And now, as a grown up, I have trouble feeling anger without it. I'm like, I'm not allowed to be angry about this. I can't speak in anger or frustration towards another person because I don't think I was allowed to do that as a little kid. Because I think as grown-ups, we accidentally assert so much control over children because that's what's done to us culturally.
Yes.
And that control is like so generational. And yeah, it's great. It's when I think about it, I'm like, what am I already doing to control my son that I don't need to be doing just because it was something that was used to control me?
Yeah, I mean that's a good.
I don't want it to be controlled.
Thing to think about, because like I, I have to get Cannon to do things sometimes,
Right.
but that little voice inside of me is like, why are you making him do this? Like there's like the devil and the angel kind of conversation where like I need him to get his shoes on quickly so we can get to school on time so he's not late and he's not locked out of the building. Like it's like all these things, right? But he doesn't know that. And then so like how do I so then it's for me to figure out a creative way to be like motivating him instead of demanding him things, But like sometimes that takes a lot of energy to like actually creative problem solve.
Creative problem solving for people who do not have fully developed brains.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard work.
It is. I know.
Especially if they are not like, if I say, hey, go ahead and get your shoes on so that we can go to the playground, it's like immediately.
Right.
If it's for school, then it's like, let me linger.
Yeah.
Let's hang out. I'm like,
oh my god.
You want to hang out with me? And mom has to work right now. Mom needs a moment to be by herself.
Yeah. But there's guilt in that too, right? Yeah. You're like,
oh. I'm like, maybe you could just stay. He's like, no. Can I just stay home today? And I'm like,
yeah, you're like, no.
I can't do it even one time because then every time after it's going to be a struggle.
I know. Oh man, there's so many times where the drop off is teary eyed, and I'm like, okay, I could bring you home. It's fine. I'm just kidding. Sorry. I know. Yeah. Sorry, not sorry.
Did he just start?
So he started
kindergarten?
Well, no, it's not kindergarten proper. It's like a I'm plugging the Acton Academy here. So the Acton Academy, so super progressive educational model. So he's at this a local one in Irving, and they're all over the DFW area and like all over the world. But so he goes to the school called the Humanist Academy. So he's in a classroom with 3-year-olds to 7-year-olds, and they all are very Montessori based and student centered. So he's in school for 8 to 3:30 or whatever. Yeah. So it's a commitment because he was only in half days before. Yeah. But he's doing good. He's learning to.
He likes it.
Yeah.
He likes his friends.
He has friends.
That's so sweet.
He learns things. He's telling us things that he learns in school. So we're like, okay, cool. It's working.
Yeah.
But yeah, some days, he's like, I want to stay home, or why are you leaving?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh.
I try to remember in those moments, like we just had Thanksgiving break, so we had a lot of time at home together, and so I was like ready for school to start again. Yep. But also, we have so much time away from each other during the day. When he's sad, I'm like trying to remind myself he probably just needs more like face-to-face connected time. And it's hard for me to remember because I get stuck in my own bubble. I'm like, I gotta go to the next thing and the next thing,
Mhm.
and he just like wants to look me in the eyes and do something together, and I yeah, I have to like stop myself to actually actively remember that.
Mhm.
It's hard.
It is hard. Yeah, because our
That's
brains
the
are like,
theme of today. It's hard.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Hashtag hard. Hashtag
Parenting's
hard.
hard.
Parenting is hard. And yeah.
Being a creative
Oh,
entrepreneur is
gosh,
hard.
I
We've chosen
know.
so many hard paths for
Yeah.
ourselves.
But it's not discouraging. It's like it's hard and we're choosing the hard because it's fulfilling. And like life is hard. Life is hard. So
Life
you
is
just
hard
choose
no
your
matter
hard, right?
what.
Choose your hard. Choose your hard.
Yeah.
That's all it is. But yeah, it is it's a funny one to like manage because it does feel like contrasting worlds sometimes. Being a parent means that you're stable, you're present, and you're reliable and consistent, you know, and then creative world is like the opposite of that. So it is kind of like, how do we merge these two aspects of ourselves in balance? But
the creative world is like that, but creativity, I feel like, is more like being a parent, because to like really be creative, you have to be persistent and consistent and kind. Like the tortured artist thing is like, it's not where it's at.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Nurtured.
Yeah. Ooh.
Like a baby.
I was gonna just say that. Have you ever thought of your creativity as a baby and how knowing how to nurture that just as we nurture our child?
Our child and our inner child.
And our inner child. Oh my God, there's so many connections we can make with our inner child and our child and our creative projects. Where should we start with that discussion? Oh my gosh, that's deep.
Is it all? I mean, how do we parent ourselves?
Right.
And our creativity and our children? I mean, I guess ideally we're parenting all of those things in the same way, but we have a lot more patience, I think, for child.
Yes.
Than I don't have as much patience for my inner child.
Yeah, I know.
And I don't give my creativity or my inner child the patience or time for nurturing that they deserve.
Right. But you're really consistent with therapy.
Oh, that's true.
So that's really great.
I'm trying.
That's really great.
But even in therapy, she's like, I feel like you still have a wall up. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
Rude. Because I'm really good at, I have a perceived version of myself that I'm really good at showing to the world and my therapist and myself, and I forget that there's other stuff behind that because I love the perceived version of myself. It's much easier to just be the perceived version of myself all the time and just ignore all the other stuff that's underneath.
Ooh. I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It's really annoying because my therapist notices it.
Oh, but does she do any like subconscious therapy?
We've been talking about shadow work and that kind of thing. We're both into tarot, and so we've been talking about like the fool's journey.
Yes.
As it relates to shadow work. So like today we kind of got off the rails a little bit because of the branding stuff. I was telling her like I'm interested in like, I don't even know how we got here. I think I said, one of the next steps to be more, we talk a lot about my self-confidence as a business owner, like pitching myself to bigger clients, that kind of thing. Like, do I have the self-confidence to do that? And she said she notices that it seems like I don't always think that I'm ready for those rooms. And so what I was trying to tell her was like, I think I'm ready, but what I need is more experience or understanding of what they need to see, like out of a pitch deck. Like, what information do they want? How do I need to visually design it so that it's not distracting? But the way that she heard it was me saying like, what I am right now is not going to be good enough for that. But we normally talk more about just the shadow work, but it's a lot to do with my self-perception and like what if what if I have a negative self perception? And is that necessarily like, does it have to be a bad thing?
But that's interesting because, like, yeah, things are coming up for you that you already have like this reaction to a word and the meaning that you ascribe to it or whatever attached to it, and like, oh, yeah, I feel like you'd be good with like subconscious therapies, of whether it be hypnotherapy or like, there's this one called brain spotting, and also EMDR is kind of like that too, right? And then like this one called RRT, rapid results therapy, which has
I like rapid results.
I know.
Whatever it is.
I'm just learning about this. So, but I definitely encourage you to look it up because it's supposed to like reformat your narratives and make a bridge between, because the concept is that there's a misalignment between your conscious brain and your subconscious. So you can think logically about a situation, your higher brains are very smart, but then your subconscious is primal, primitive, right?
Right.
And it's still operating under pretenses that are probably false, right? And then so RRT basically creates this alignment between those two so that things feel more aligned.
That's
there's
interesting.
like opening up that alignment more.
That's kind of where we got at the end of my session today, because I did a pitch competition a couple of weeks ago. I felt pretty good about the content overall, and like I remembered everything I wanted to say. I like stood very confidently.
Yeah.
But the whole time my voice was shaking and I had a hard time catching my breath. So even though like in my higher mind, my conscious mind, I was like, I'm doing great, I got this. My body was still like freaking out.
Yeah.
I was like, what is going on, body? And it's something I've dealt with for my whole life. Not my whole life. But since I was a kid, I've dealt with some performance anxiety, which like when you're playing violin and you start shaking, that is not a good, that's not a good situation.
Yeah. Oh.
I know. Yeah, Tyler agrees. And so, you know, we've talked a lot about that, but there's that idea of like, you know who you are and you know what you can do, but your lizard brain is still like, danger.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how can we get them alive? I mean,
like, we are okay. Yo, come up here and meet me and in the safety.
I'm fine. I'm killing it right now, and you're fucking it all up for me.
I know. Get in line. Get in line. Ooh.
Yeah, it's crazy. Do you think that like with creativity, like if you're out of alignment in those things, what do you think that does to your creativity? Or like, is creativity something that can be blocked by those? Is it better if they're in alignment? Or I don't know. I feel like some people are, by suppressing certain things, are able to create different types of stuff. But then maybe when, like with the tortured artist idea, but then if they were to like confront their shadow selves, then maybe a different type of creativity would emerge.
I think I would say you would create different things, different art based on whatever state you're in, misaligned, aligned, whatever. I think like, I mean, art to me is like just the human experience, right? Being put on something, or the concept that you're creating nothing or something from nothing. But I don't think there's like a judgment label of like, oh, this art is better because it's come from like a tortured soul versus this art is not as good because it's you know, a healed person or whatever in essence.
This person did not cut their ear off.
Right. Exactly.
And so they must not be as inspired. Or whatever.
But I also think that like we have to acknowledge that trauma is trauma and everybody has trauma, like whether or not everybody agrees with that statement or not. That's my framework that I operate from. But it's not for us to determine if like this trauma is more traumatic than the other one. Like your body has the same reaction no matter what. If you see a threat, your body's going to have that locked in. Ooh, not going to do that again. And then whenever anything like that will happen, like your body's going to react the same way. So whether it be touching a hot cup of coffee and then now you don't want to like touch cups anymore, right? You're going to like modify your behavior because of that.
Right.
And then so, from that place, like, how do you create,
Mm-hmm.
or like what comes up because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also think that there can be really interesting art created when you intentionally decide to like investigate that more.
Yeah.
Like you potentially investigating shadow work more.
Mm-hmm.
And then like what will that uncover, and how will your creative brain pathways, be affected in your output, or in the process of making an output. I
Yeah.
don't know, but it's interesting,
Yeah.
because art isn't for us to like create and then judge, like if it's worthy enough or not,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
just really just to the act of creating should be the end goal, and then monetizing as a whole other conversation. That's like what
Yeah.
you would want to do next, right?
Right.
But create.
Or get a patron.
I
And then you
know.
I really like
But
that model. I need
have
it to
you
come back.
successfully had a Patreon account?
We have a Patreon for
Okay.
the band.
Okay.
And we have people on there. We struggle to post things on Patreon and post about it consistently. I think if we were treating it more like a part-time job, then we could.
Right.
Because we have enough stuff and enough potential stuff to like put stuff on there consistently.
Yeah.
But it's like one of those things that like I don't know, when we do something like when we have a studio session or whatever, it's like here's some behind the scenes, but we don't always go out of our way to make extra stuff for the Patreon. But I think it's a great model, and they are investing in just making it a better platform and like decentralizing the algorithm and all that stuff, like putting the hands back in the power, or putting the power back in
I got you.
Hands
of power.
Patreon, if you would like to be a sponsor of this podcast,
we love
please
your model.
chat with me. I have thought like how many listeners would I need to get before I just go ahead and make a podcast Patreon? I love starting stuff like that. I love making stuff, but I have to actually commit to following through.
That is my
it's so hard.
My not blind spot, but no, that, and I think that's why we're on the same wavelength. But like creators are really good at ideating, making something that never existed before come to life, thinking of new ideas, new ways of doing things, but the follow through is the most difficult as an entrepreneur. Like like I don't know if I have a solution to it, but I'm like,
what do you tell your clients when you were helping somebody?
Yeah, when I was helping them, I was mostly like, okay, you just have to figure it out. You just have to figure out a system for yourself that works, because like obviously everybody's different, and so like, and context wise, like a lot of my clients didn't have kids, so like, okay, you have no excuse,
right?
I mean, no judgment.
Oh my gosh,
no judgment. No judgment.
The amount of time that I had before I had a kid. Oh my
God, I know. What did I do with that time? Nothing.
I just sat around. Yeah. I didn't really, but
I know.
I did so much stuff.
I could have done so much with all that time.
Yeah.
But we only know this now.
Right.
We didn't have that perspective.
I know. So good.
Hindsight.
Are you still coaching at all, or?
I'm not anymore, because I realize that it takes up a lot of energy. Like I get really invested in clients, and like I have this like probably need to do some therapy work around this, but like I feel like a lot of times I want transformation more than they do, or at least like my version of transformation is different than what maybe they are actively doing,
right?
And it's not,
you see the solution.
Yeah. And then it's also like coaching creatives is like, like show up at this time in this place. That's like asking for a lot.
Yeah.
Bare minimum. So like when I'm asking them to transform their life in little baby steps, then it's like, okay, like again, no judgment to any creatives, but we are very difficult to manage. So like I think I was too invested in that process of like seeing the results that I wanted to see, and with that disconnect of not seeing it, and like trying to not be invested, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
And I'm a mom, so like I need that energy to be spent on my child,
Yes. Yep.
versus an adult.
Yeah. And I guess in a
But
lot of ways, their results feels like a reflection on you as a coach and a teacher. Like if they don't,
yeah,
if they are not succeeding, then it's like, well, what
yeah,
am I doing wrong? But it's
right.
more about them.
Exactly. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like granted I probably could have like, made adjustments to like really, commit to making that a sustainable career for me. But like
Hmm.
I think as I've done a lot more things with my life, I'm like, oh, I just really like being a thought leader of sorts where I
Hmm.
like just put things out there.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want with them.
Right.
It's not my business. I'm
Right.
not accountable and to you,
Yeah.
I'm not holding you accountable. And I like creating things and I need sort of getting back to like how do we do the follow through? It's like my current solution is just partnering with people that
Hmm.
have those skills.
Hmm.
That's what it comes down to because I'm like don't want to do it. There's
Yeah.
some subconscious block that I'm like I don't want to create systems, you know. And so I just need somebody else that's their language, that's their love language, that's how they operate,
Yeah.
and then partner with them to make it happen.
Hmm.
So I think, oh yeah, a lot of my work is like collaborative in that sense where I'm like, okay, I just need to find people that operate like me and have the same kind of work ethic and have skills that I don't have. And like as far as the impact and work that I want to do, like I want to keep like showing up in a consistent way where I am continuously like pushing limits, like yeah, having these conversations where we're like, okay, well, we need to have more conversations about this, so let's be full disclosure about the behind the scenes of what an working artist look like. And then especially about parenting, like motherhood. Oh my god, that's like a whole like it's like a disease. Like nobody looks at it, right? No, like our society grows from generations being birthed, but like nobody talks about how they're actually being raised. And then all
Yeah.
of a sudden we come to this society where we're like, oh wow, we're like really mean to each other. Well,
Hmm.
why is that? Because we're not prioritizing our most important asset.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
so it's just like I feel like what I'm shifting into is becoming like these are big words that I'm using, like a pioneer of sorts, where I'm like trying to create initiatives for supporting the people that I'm most aligned with, which are artists, right?
Mm.
So I'm doing, different initiatives. I'm creating different educational courses. I am also living by example, this like life of like kind of operating as a business and moving ahead. But then also like, yeah, I'm an artist. So I'm just gonna fucking play around and fucking dance. If I have a gig, I'm gonna do it. Like
Yeah.
because it makes me
Yes.
happy. So I feel like I'm trying to embody what I want artists to see or do. And like I'm not gonna hold their hand anymore. I'm not gonna be a coach.
Good.
So,
Oh, good.
but yeah, it's a journey for sure.
Are there particular types of teachings or things that you're gravitating towards?
So everything that I'm working on is kind of low and slow. So to be like super detailed about what I'm doing right now. So I am currently working as an adjunct in Dallas College in UNT.
Mm.
And I've been trying to work with the department heads, mostly at UNT, to help create an entrepreneurship track in the dance department because that's where I am.
That's great.
And so like but higher education moves like a snail. So like, I'm not to me I'm like I'm not seeing the results fast enough, but like
Right.
we're having the conversations,
Right.
then we're grouping in the chair and then like the department chair and then the dean and like because there's so many hierarchical things in higher education. And so like we're at a point where we're having conversations about okay, this is the course that we want to pitch and this is probably when we're going to like debut it like 2025, but it's also like is this what we want? So TBD on that. So this is like 2 years, well not 2 years, this is like a year in the making of like just getting to the point where we're making a proposal to our our uppers.
Yeah.
So we're like okay cool, that's one step. And so I'm kind of like buying my time at Dallas College to be doing the same thing where we're like, okay, let me like settle in because I only taught one term. Let me settle in, and then when the timing is right, I'll like make this insertion. Because like for me, my impact, I want to make it through the system versus just one-to-one.
Right.
That's a way more powerful, potent
Absolutely.
impact. And then the other initiative is Art Boost, which, did you come to that?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. So Art Boost is an initiative when I was part of the Business Council for the Arts, the Leadership Arts Institute. That program created Art Boost, which is a conference for arts entrepreneurship. And the people that we served through that was freelance artists of all disciplines and all levels. So whether it be hobby artists to super seasoned, businessy artists, all of those in between too. But Art Boost is like, it started as an event, but we're like trying to keep continuing to build partnerships where we're like, okay, how can we keep building this thing to make it a long-standing movement of sorts versus just one event a year, So we have partnerships with SMU, with Dallas Morning News, KRA, and so it's like all of these companies individually are doing things to support artists, but now we're just like banding together to create, focusing on the event, but then over time we're like, how can we like have more touch points with the artist community and build a movement? And we're also talking about like building like an online learning management system, where people can have memberships and then access resources to different talks or workshops or whatever. So that's it's like a lot of stuff happening,
Yeah. But all about like empowering the artist community.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And education.
I think we should take a quick break to get more coffee if we want. Or I also want to, if you are done eating.
Oh yeah, we can,
I don't want to just leave it sitting out.
I know, I hear you. I'm gonna take one more bite.
Don't want to cause any botulism.
I don't want that.
I rebuke it.
It's funny because I'll use that word. Obviously, ironically.
Right.
But like literally, my mom would say that like all the time. Oh my God. So she's like programmed in me.
I rebuke it. We can keep it going.
I rebuke you.
Real life here.
Thank you. I rebuke it.
So speaking of religion, tell me about what you think of God and creativity now.
Ooh, God and creativity.
Or God, well, you could talk about God and then how God relates to creativity in your life, or they can be together, or it can be whatever you want.
Ooh, this is a deep question that I feel like I'm still in this ambiguous, I don't even know, mist that I'm like, I don't really have clarity. And maybe it's something that I'll never understand because like even logically the concept of God is like, he's not like us or they or what he, she, whatever entity like is so beyond our comprehension that it's like, how do you even define that?
Yeah.
Like I can only define it in my current context of understanding.
Yeah.
And that is very limited.
Yeah.
So I do think that there's some, I don't want to say benevolent because again, that's like based on our own subjective reality.
Sure.
Just some greater force that exists that is kind of holding space for us. And at times it can feel like, it's more kind.
Yeah.
Or harsh. But then through the harshness, there's kindness that you get to experience because you're like, oh, I learned a lesson, or oh, I grew, or whatever. But then there's still some shitty ass life experiences that you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? And then you're like, how's this person even alive? That they like are here to tell the story. I'm like, what? So, yeah, all of that is God in essence. Like, it's not for me to define or clarify, but there's something that is just holding the cosmos, I guess, you
Yeah.
know? And so there is, when I think about it that way, that there's something behind it all, that then there's a little bit of comfort knowing that there's like something, like maybe a direction or a point to it all that I can at least latch on to.
Mm.
Um, and then so when it comes to like creativity, there's something with creativity, like, not that you need to have a safe space to create, but there definitely needs to be some kind of iteration of safety so that you can produce something,
Mm.
I think. And so, like, okay, bigger picture, like, if God is holding space and, like, you just, that's like the foundation of, like, I trust that I am being held in some way, because I still do think that we have autonomy over, like, what our choices are. And, like, not to be dark, but like, yeah, we could just choose to like commit suicide the next day and like, that's it, done, like,
Yeah.
so we still have those decisions to make, but like, it's held. And so, as God is like the creator in essence, like, we are also doing the same thing with art. Like,
Mhm.
there's no, you just like let it happen. Like, if you're truly like in your flow and you're creating and you're like going, like, it just happens
Mm.
and you're not like forcing it. So it's almost like we're holding our little microcosmic universe of creativity the same way that God might be holding everything. I don't know if that made any sense, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think there's parallels to like religion. Like, I feel like, yeah, you need a philosophical framework of some sort, religious framework of some sort, to hold while being a creative yourself. Yeah, I don't know.
Where I wonder, like, well, you mentioned needing to feel safe in order to creatively produce.
Mm-hmm.
So like it makes me think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm trying to remember what book I was reading. I think might be little bit of a false structure based on like European
Yes.
colonialism.
Yes, I agree. Yep, 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 yep.
Um,
Yep.
because because oh no, I don't want to misquote it, but
Check,
like
fact
that's
check.
based on a capitalist. It's based on a capitalist society where it's not assumed that everybody immediately has access to food and shelter.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then after that, relationships, etc. But do you think like it's about physical safety requirements need to be met in order to create, or is it like, do you see that space as being emotional or mental, or what does that space mean to you?
Right. Good question. I don't think it means physical safety, like whether it be food, shelter, or um yeah, food or shelter is basic. Well, love, I guess, is
Yeah.
also like maybe that's like more, yeah, spiritual, emotional. But no, I don't think it has to do with food or sustenance. I think um yeah, safety. Oh, even as I'm saying though, I'm like, I feel like there's still loose links that don't make sense to me, because
Mm.
like, yeah, I think that if you feel secure in yourself, maybe it's like, oh, if you feel secure in yourself, you can create with confidence.
Mm.
And then that's the intention that of why you're creating.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I'm going to create this thing. I'm going to do this. And that safety helps make it happen. But there are other circumstances where like creation becomes necessity because it is an act of release.
Mm.
And so that's not, I don't think in those cases you are safe psychologically, emotionally, but like your need to create needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I think of like how hip hop was invented, right? It came out of oppressive context of, you know, Black and Latino youth at the time, circa 70s, 80s Bronx, New York, right? They were just kind of like, the government was just not looking in their direction. Their like neighborhoods were literally on fire. And so like, what are the youth gonna do? They need like an outlet. So they created this youth movement, and now it's global. They had no clue it was gonna last this long, right? But
here we are.
yeah,
And now,
right?
we watched the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade,
Oh,
and there was a
did
country
you?
artist who,
Oh.
it was like a country song, but he was trying to make it hip hop, and I was like,
Ooh, cringy.
It was
Ooh,
not good.
cringy. Oh gosh.
Yeah, it was, and I was like, as I was listening to it, I was like, how many people who are gonna listen to this song and be like, oh my gosh, this is such a good song, would listen to hip hop and be like, no, no, thank you.
Right.
Not the youth of color who have been
Right.
oppressed. I don't want
Right.
to hear what they have to say about this.
Right. Yeah.
But we love their beats.
I know, their beats are so cool. Yeah. I mean, that's a whole other conversation about like
Yes.
appropriation,
Yep.
appreciation, all that stuff. But like, yeah, in that sense, it's like that safety. They didn't have that
Right.
safety, more so from like physical stuff, but it triggered emotional safety. Yeah, I don't know. And that's also like hard for me to judge. Like maybe they did feel safe emotionally. I don't know. And they just were like not bored, but like,
yeah,
I don't know.
I think the idea of making space though is really important. Whether it's like, you know, you have to also intentionally make that space. Well, maybe not intentionally. I think some people just do creative things without necessarily thinking about it. But there are a lot of people who like wake up, eat, go to work, come home, watch TV, go to bed.
Yeah.
And that's their whole life every single day over and over.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, they're just in their phones watching other people's content. And so I think especially now, because there's so little opportunity for space or for quiet, we have to like really intentionally say, I want to make things. I need to make things, or like intentionally make time to consume quietness or consume other art in an intentional way that can then feed your own creativity, and then maybe allow the divine to like flow through that space or help expand that space. It's hard. It's hard. It's so hard.
It is hard because they're the whole like, you know, the loudness of the society today is like really, really overwhelming, you know. And for people who are inspired like us, like when we open up our phone, we're like getting taken to a whole other, it's like a portal to a whole other world, sure, right? And then like, okay, now we got to come back. Yes. Okay, what were we doing? Oh, and then we like go fall into another portal, and it's just like, yeah, so many things.
Nature.
Yeah, coffee. Right? Yeah. So the action to create intentional space is like, oh my God, it's such a big effort nowadays. But what if like our intention to create space for ourselves wasn't just for the pure act of creativity, but what if it was just to like, be still? Because I do think that when you invite stillness and space into your moment, like, I believe that we are programmed to create no matter what. Like just the act of breathing is creating something that wasn't there before. You know, our body is like regenerating itself all the time. So just by sitting in stillness, we're not actually sitting in stillness, but like sitting in stillness, right? Like it's like you can't not create, right? Whether you define it as art is like a different question, but sure. Like, so like, okay, so instead of making space to be creative, like why don't you just make space to be still? What was that noise? Is she licking?
No,
vomiting?
She's like coughing? Just started retching a little bit, but like right into my crotch. I don't like it.
Delightful. Did you eat something
Um,
outside?
okay. I'm just gonna write down
Oh,
artist versus creative entrepreneur because I don't know if this is where this conversation goes right now, but I do want to know if you think there's a difference. I'm curious what you think about. Well, so you talk about like we are actively creating, our bodies are actively creating. Like, are there ways to imbue acts that do not inherently seem creative with creativity?
Ooh. Yes.
Like, how do you have a creative practice? Like, I think people think of creativity and they're like, I can't be creative. I'm not creative. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, literally anybody. It's like creative mornings.
Yeah.
Everybody is creative.
Yeah.
It's about your mindset. So, like, what is it about the mindset that makes something creative, or how can you make something feel creative that might not feel creative at first?
I think the base of creativity is curiosity. So if you can be curious and ask questions and then explore whatever, answering it or just meditating on that question, you're like likely to be creating something. So like you made me coffee. Obviously there's like a billion ways to prepare coffee, right? And prepare it for somebody else. So it's like you ask me questions. You're like, do you like milk? Do you like cream? Do you want sugar? And I was like, I'm deciding on milk today. Just kidding, cream, because you mentioned it. And I had that intuitive, discretionary gut feeling that I was like, I want to be indulgent today. Because to me, cream means indulgent. And I want to experiment with this experience of having an indulgent cup versus just a milky cup, you know? But then look at what we've created. We've created a cup of coffee. And like also how you like pick it up. You can pick it up like this. You can drink it like this.
You're so quirky.
Right? You pick it up like this. I'm not going to do it. But you know, you could like do it like this. Very difficultly. But like, yeah, I think there's just like some, maybe us labeling it as something like, then it becomes like a thing that we can't get to. And so maybe it's just like, no, creativity is just life in motion.
And it's like you being in your life, like actively staying here in your brain, as opposed to like in the future. I love to be in the future.
Oh, who doesn't?
I love to. I'm an Enneagram 3, and we are future-oriented people.
Oh.
So I'm just always like, what's the possibility?
Oh man.
Yeah.
And are you a wing with anything, or like what's your wing?
I mean, there's many schools of thought, but the one that I like to ascribe to is that you can borrow from either side. I feel like the 4 creativity and the 2 people oriented are both very much parts of me at different times in my life, depending on what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that Enneagram is like, do you know your Enneagram?
I think I'm like 4-5 or something like that. I think I'm 4-5, but I can't remember if that's accurate or not.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm like fully one or if like I have a mix. But I love all that stuff. Enneagrams, human design. What's the other one? Myers-Briggs.
I'm an ENFP.
Oh, INFP. ENFP? Oh, what?
I'm married to an INFP. Enneagram 4. Are you my husband?
Yeah, probably. It sounds like it now that you're saying all these numbers. Probably. I am so Adrian. Funny. We're both bald, so.
You can share hat tips.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Do you know your human design?
I'm not really actually familiar with that one. I know my.
You would love it. Knowing you.
What's the other one? That will work the disc. I'm a high I on the disc, and I'm a high S on the disc.
I can't remember mine, but I definitely did disc.
Yeah, I've done a lot of human design. Okay.
That one actually was really diving, because you also, I would definitely recommend, like you can do your own research with human design, but like getting somebody who does human design, kind of hold your hand through the analysis of it is like super juicy, because it actually really helped me like rewrite a narrative that was not helpful to me
Okay.
regarding how I showed up as
Mm.
a kid
Mm.
and like why I did the things that I did.
Mm-hmm.
And it like rewrote that traumatic story, which was very pivotal.
That's
so 5 stars. 5 stars to human design because that was like, I was like, whoa, that's why I did that. That's why I did that.
Mm.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
The one that, well, with the shadow work and tarot stuff, I've been thinking about the archetypes from the decks and just like, oh, which ones feel like me right now, and where have I been? Where am I going? It's all interrelated. I get pretty nerdy about it. I think the Enneagram I probably I dove the deepest into. I have swam in those waters. I have swum. See,
Swim, sail, swim. Yeah.
English is the word.
I know, it is hard. It's a hard
so
language.
Bad. As we're
It's
like
hard.
thinking about letters,
Oh my
Oliver is
God.
interested in the alphabet and the
Mhm.
sounds that they make. So he'll look at
No.
a word, and then he'll be like he'll see an A in the middle of a word like cane, and he says it like an A, and I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I'm sorry, honey.
I know.
I'm so sorry.
God. Yeah. So for me, I'm like, no, you just need to memorize words. There's no point in me telling you the sounds of letters. That doesn't make any sense.
I did meet a literacy teacher who told me about a book that I would like to get. It's called English. It's something about the English language rules and like why all the spelling things exist. So if you're nerdy about that kind of thing,
I don't know if I want to know
there's
why.
a book about it. Or like not why, but like what when does E make vowels
so
say their name, that kind of thing.
Grammar
Yeah,
rules.
so that you can like really set them up for success. But I don't know. I feel like that's another deep dive. That
I know.
I think
that's a whole
right now literacy is very interesting to me, but I
800,
also like when I was in high school, sometimes I remember like, oh, I volunteered for a reading, like a literacy thing where I just like went and read to little kids who were having trouble reading. I'm like, oh, I did that thing. I was that person once.
I was a tutor, English tutor. For ESL.
Yeah.
So I did that. Yeah.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can contain multitudes.
I know. We can just keep
so many things.
Wait, what were we talking about?
Creativity.
Oh, Enneagrams.
Tarot. Oh, because I was saying I'm future thinking.
Oh, yeah.
As an Enneagram 3. And part of creating in life is like just living in your present moment, finding the novelty, even in non-novel situations. It's possible.
Yeah.
But it really takes intention.
Yeah.
And I think in the end, it feels like it's a more fun existence than just like living in your phone or living in the future. But dang, it is not first instinct.
Nope, definitely not.
I would love for it to just come naturally.
So then our smart brain has to be like, how do we create an environment that will foster it to become a habit? First habit versus an afterthought.
Right. I think that's where, for me, like, I see the idea of ritual really working this week, and kind of since Thanksgiving, my rituals have not been happening. But for a while, I've been consistently like just sitting down after daycare drop off and just like trying to read from a nonfiction book because I love fiction and I can like escape and bury myself in nonfiction or in fiction like fantasy all day.
Yeah.
But nonfiction, you know, there's a lot of really good books out there. So if I just say I'm going to read this book for 10 minutes, and sometimes it ends up being longer.
Right.
And I've been able to get through quite a few really interesting nonfiction books recently, and it's like really helped my thinking just in general to like have more diversity of thought. So that, and then also just like writing in my journal, even if it's a few lines of like, I don't really know what to say today. I'd like to be a more
Mm-hmm.
deep journaler,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like my brain has a hard time like sinking its teeth into something sometimes. Like if I get on a particular track or in a conversation, it's a lot
Mm-hmm.
easier.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm just sitting there like trying to write about my life, I'm like, today I'm gonna go do this thing, and then I'm gonna go do this thing, and then this thing. There's no like, how do I feel about this? So I think what I needed is to like come up with some consistent journaling prompts that are gonna make me like sink my teeth in.
Yeah.
But anyway, all of that to say, I was consistently doing that almost every morning. And ideally, if, when I'm like really on top of it, I'll take the dog for a walk, or like we have like gym equipment out there, or so like if I wanted to do a workout, going ahead and getting that done.
Yeah.
But if I don't like set those things out in my schedule, or like have a checklist where I'm seeing it, like I was going through the 12-week year, so that was like part of my 12-week year tasks.
Wait, what is a 12-week year?
Oh, here, I'm gonna put it on the parking lot, and I'll tell you in a second.
Yeah.
So I don't lose my train of thought.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's why we have a parking lot.
Yeah, I know.
If I don't have it as, if I don't have some kind of external markers, I'm not gonna. I probably am not gonna take the time to read or journal or anything. I just end up sitting and like drinking my coffee and looking at Instagram.
Oh.
And Instagram is fine.
Why is your phone there?
Oh, because I like took it in the car to go to daycare drop off, and then I just have it. I'm like listening to something as I'm making my breakfast or whatever. And so then it's just always there.
Oh, going, God, it's always there. Yeah,
yeah.
So markers, though. Markers.
Having physical, external, like, this is what I'm planning to do when I like sit down and plan my week and decide this is what I'm going to edit. This is what I'm going to do my accounting. This, like, giving myself that structure ahead of time makes it so much easier in the moment to say, okay, I can be here instead of wandering. Am I gonna, instead of like wandering with an A and wandering with an O, because otherwise I'm just constantly like, should I be doing something else right now? What else is on my to-do list? Because my brain does not want to, it does not keep those things organized by itself. Yeah. So I like tools and systems, whether I stick with them.
I know. And I think that's another thing too. Maybe it's like a creative brain, or maybe it's just us, but like, I do feel like I try to create systems for myself, and then I'll be doing good for a bit, and then something happens. Yeah. Nothing big. I just gravitate away from it. Yeah, Thanksgiving, holidays, birthdays. Yeah, or like my workload changes, so then it's like, I don't know, like it just doesn't work. It doesn't serve me the same anymore. Yeah. So like, but then the trick is to like not be judgy about it and be like, oh, I failed. I can't get my life together. So like, so it's more of like, okay, how do I find a sustainable, small task, action to take to like keep making the life that I want. But that's really
those
hard.
Those little tasks can create momentum that then pushes you into the next thing. Yeah. I guess it's like some people make their bed every day.
Yeah, I do.
You do?
Yes. That and I drink water every day. Now I have a ritual. My ritual is drinking water with lemon in it.
That before coffee.
Yes. And I also I'm trying to start a new ritual where I'm like not having coffee for at least 2 hours before I actually get going.
Interesting.
And I've been trying to go outside and get vitamin D, but it's not always.
I was doing that.
It's not always bright
And then
when I wake up.
Fall started dropping leaves, and my pollen just me. Like I go to pollen.com every day to see what the map looks like. The whole of U.S. is green, and then this little area of North Texas says yellow.
Oh, really?
Yeah, North Texas is terrible. Like
really?
It just collects wind from lots of other regions, and it all kind of gathers in this area.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, it's a nightmare for people with seasonal allergies.
Yeah. So are you taking meds? Or?
I'm not currently, like, meds have not really worked that effectively for me. And I think they also like Claritin and all of that. It wasn't super effective. And then also, I've heard that there's other issues, like it can cause issues to your metabolism and stuff like that. I'm not a doctor or a scientist, so I don't actually know. But I've now gotten like homeopathic stuff that provides like more immediate relief for the symptoms. And then I've just stayed inside when it's like a super polleny day. Or if I've been outside, I come home and spray down my nose with like saline solution, just clear it out.
Oh wow!
And so I'm feeling a lot better after just having so much, and it happens every year. Like last year, I was coughing so much that I like threw out a rib, and so I had a rib injury for 3 months. I couldn't do basic stuff without pain.
Gosh.
It was terrible. And I was like, I do not want that again.
Whoa!
Do not recommend.
That's crazy.
It would suck. It really like
do that.
set this year off to a kind of a shitty start.
Oh my gosh!
I was just like always like, how do people with chronic pain, like how do they just move through their lives and do the same amount of stuff that I do, but with more pain? It's incredible.
It is. Yeah.
But 12-week year. I'm 2 weeks off of it currently, because Thanksgiving and then this weekend was like, oh, it's not happening. But the idea is that we, as humans, are better at dealing with time in weekly increments instead of monthly increments. So like a lot of times we'll set a yearly goal for ourselves, and then we'll wait till like November to really start pushing towards it. So instead we can set quarterly goals for ourselves and think of each week, like what are steps that I can take each week to get me to this goal. And when I used to do it, I would set way too many goals for myself. But now I set, when I do it, I try to set just like a few overall goals, like maybe a couple for my personal life and then a couple for work. And then I kind of break down those goals into like, what's one thing I can do each week towards this goal? Or, you know, like maybe week 1, week 4, like one of my goals is like have a better understanding of my finances. And so like one of the things is like every 4 weeks, go ahead and like reconcile your accounts. Make sure you know what's going on in there. Another one was like, you know, I want to reach more potential clients. So I should put together a pitch deck that I can send out to different people. And then after that, each week I can actually send it out. But you score yourself based on how many of the tasks you actually accomplish. So you have a percentage for each week. And it's like, if you can hit 75% or 80% of your goals each week, then you're probably going to make some kind of progress.
That's a lot. 75, 80%. That's like a really.
You can also.
That's really good.
I mean, I'm kind of.
I feel.
I'm gaming the system a little bit. Like, I have a morning routine 5 days a week as one of the goals. So like, if I can do it 4 or 5 days a week, that's great. And literally, if I read a little bit, journal a little bit, I'm like, great, that's it. That's all I'm going to count for it. So you can make it as strenuous or not as you want. But then another of my goals is read 15 minutes of nonfiction a day. And that's tied into my morning routine already. So if I do that, then I can check off 2 things.
Yeah, I gotcha. 2 birds.
So yeah, to me, it's like, it helps my brain to break things down into those shorter amounts of time. Yeah. Because things don't feel as overwhelming that way.
Right. Or like amorphous.
Yeah.
I will do this by the end of the year.
Or every 13 weeks, I guess. So there would be 12 weeks of like work and then 1 week of rest. And then you can do 4 of those in a year. Because 13 times 4 is 52. Yeah.
52 weeks.
Yeah. I was like, no, that's the right math.
I know, I don't do math either. Interesting.
And so then every 12 weeks, you basically get a little reset, which if you're somebody who likes to like novelty and doing new things, then you're like, oh, wow, it's already time for me to like reevaluate and see what worked last time. How do I want to do things differently? Oh my gosh, it's a whole new year, new me.
Right.
But it's only 12 weeks here.
But it's also like gradual. And I like the concept because it's also like you're celebrating your wins.
Yeah.
Your progress.
Exactly.
Whether it be 100% or
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, 60%. Either way, it's
Yes.
like in that direction, tipping
And
the
those
scales.
goals or those daily not daily, but
Mm.
those weekly tasks can be as small or as big as
Mm.
you want them to be,
Right.
which I appreciate.
Right.
And I also like that, like, there's other things that are 12 weeks that you could do simultaneously if you wanted to, like the artist way or
Oh gosh,
stuff
the
like that.
artist way.
That's
Let's not get
you
into
have a
it.
hot take about the artist way?
Girl, hardest way. No, I just like, I feel like I've like started at like 4. Yeah, that's my thoughts exactly.
Okay.
No, it's
No,
not.
that's
It's nothing
interesting.
bad about
Sure.
Artist Way. I started it like 4 times probably, and I just like couldn't get past like week 3 or whatever.
Okay.
I just like, I think conceptually I'm like, that's so much time to commit, and it feels like a lot what she's asking.
Yeah.
All of the things.
Yes.
Dates, you know, the writing, the morning pages,
Yeah.
and all this stuff, and I'm like, morning pages? I don't have time for morning pages. I have to get my son out the door, you know, so. And like.
There needs to be an artist way for parents.
Yeah, or just like one thing. We don't have to go all of them. Did you finish it? Have you finished it?
Sort of. I mean, I've gone through it. I can't say that I like
committed
was
to it.
consistent every day with the morning pages or did my dates every week.
Yeah.
But I like read all this stuff and answered the questions. I was.
That's good.
Yeah, I did Artist Way Light.
I like that. Artist Way Light. They should make an Artist Way Light version. Yeah.
Well, I guess we can make it Artist Way Light. I don't know. I'm sure Artist Way is copyrighted.
I know, it's true.
We could do the artist's path.
Oh my god. What is going on?
Our minds are melded. Finally.
Plans.
No.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's
oh my gosh.
The whole thing. I did want to ask what, like, well, with the Artist Way, the whole idea is like helping your inner child find who they are and all of that. Do you think there's a difference between like we kind of have used the words artist and creative entrepreneur interchangeably, but I think they might be different. And I was wondering if you have defined,
Yes.
Tell me.
Yes, I will tell you. Yeah, I think they're different. I think they're different because, like, by definition, yes, they're different, but also in practice, I think they're different in intention. So, like, we were talking about, like, creating art just to create art. I think that's an artist, and also somebody who just thinks differently about the world, who sees things differently. I think they're an artist. Whether or not they produce anything and output anything, I think that's a different conversation. But I label myself an artist because I think I'm different and I see things differently and I like to do things differently. But also I output things too. But yeah, the creative entrepreneur, I also feel in my own body like I have to put on a different hat and a different brain when I'm approaching that role. And so with creative entrepreneurship, I do think that the goal is to make money. I hate using that terminology, but like that's real. Yeah, that's the construct we live in. That's the economy, right? We're money traders. So making money, making a livelihood out of the thing that you create. And I think that you have to think of strategy, you have to think of big picture, you have to be intentional, you have to play by the rules of the economy.
Yeah.
Fair and simple, right? That's it. Like you have to do it. And like whatever judgments go along with that, sell out, whatever, diluting your art, blah, 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 like all that. It's fair, sure. But like also like I think creative entrepreneurship is with the intention of profiting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we all need profit. We all need money to live. Let's be realistic. So, but I do think they're different. Yeah. Because some people also just love just being an artist and just love being in that. And they have no intention of making money from their art. And that's totally fine. But I also will raise the flag that like a lot of artists like creating because there's something inside their subconscious, their little inner child that wants to be seen and wants to like put things out there that are going to make impact. And I think that this is an ugly truth, but I do think that money and having access to money means more impact. So then it's like, okay, if you get to a point where you acknowledge that you want to make more impact, then maybe you want to consider, how you can pursue more money to be able to make greater that impact and widen it more. But that's for you to decide, not for me.
Yeah, some people do a really good job of like going to a job where they aren't where they don't have to be super creative, or they're creative in different ways, but then they come home to a creative practice or like on the weekends. I think that's beautiful too.
Yeah, and necessary.
Sometimes I'm like,
oh,
do I want
that? Keeping it as a hobby.
Like, yeah, just like only doing creative things for fun on the weekends. Yeah.
I don't even, I think in my brain, I don't understand that because like, that's not where I'm at right now. But like, I do think that maybe someday I'll be there. Just creating for that simplicity of doing it.
Yeah.
But that's not where we are.
It's not.
You and I are like, optimize. So.
Gotta make the best things. I want to make people feel.
Yeah, I do. But yeah, impact, right?
Make people feel something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to think about like why video, and I like video specifically, and I'm good at it, but I like my other creative thing. Like I wouldn't want to have to choose like, do I want to be a musician or a videographer? Like both of them at different points in time have rises and falls in my love for them, but the through line is always like, I want to make things that make people feel. Whatever it is, whether it's a podcast or a song with just the right harmonies or a video or whatever. I just want to make people feel something.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, what are we?
I know. Then we are AI robots.
We are robots.
Right? Because anybody, I don't know if you played around with AI stuff.
I use ChatGPT.
Have you like done any of like create avatars and like chatbots and like even listen to like fake podcasts around AI generated content?
I not yet. I've used Photoshop because Adobe has some good ethical AI generation stuff, which I appreciate. Yes. And then I use AI voice enhanced tools in my video stuff, which is lifesaver.
Yeah, that's
oh my gosh, it's so good.
Yeah.
But I was talking with a new friend the other day who is really interested in AI stuff, and the more she talked about it, the more I was like, oh my gosh, it's taking over, and we have no way to regulate it, or like our technology is moving faster than our brains are evolving, and that worries me. And I think it's so fascinating to see the conversations around like art and like human created art versus AI created art, and like how that needs to be denoted now in public spaces, and if people enjoy looking at something, does it matter if AI did it or a human did it?
Like, I know.
There's so many.
Does it invalidate it?
I mean, with dance, AI is. I don't think AI is quite there yet. I have seen some. Some dance videos made by AI.
Yeah.
And those crack me up actually.
Yeah.
I get good laughs out of that.
Yeah, at least it's clunky.
Yeah. But yeah, for like video interviews and stuff, I see people post talking head videos that are like, oh, I'm pretty sure this is not a real human. And that to me is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how can I, like, I'm okay with having videos that are like a little shaky, or like where things don't look completely perfect, because then it's like, oh, this is a human doing this video.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a really interesting world that we're diving into. Oh gosh, yeah, AI. I will say that I'm really enjoying learning about it,
Mhm.
but like, yeah, it is very,
It's the wild, wild west.
yes, and it can be very like, yeah, fear inducing a little bit if you like
Mhm.
let yourself think about it that way. But, there's a lot of fun things to explore
Yeah.
as far as tools
Oh, yeah.
and, yeah, how to enhance things and make things a little more efficient as well.
Yeah.
But,
It-
AI. Yeah.
well, I feel like we could probably keep going for a long time.
100%.
But I also think we're probably
Yeah,
around
you
2
gotta.
hours. at
Oh
this
my
point.
God. Okay.
Getting close to it.
Yeah, we gotta. I mean, we took breaks, but yeah.
Sure. And we've got children to go
Go pick up.
and take care of. I have a couple of things to respond to
Oh yeah,
before the
yeah,
week's over.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it's Friday.
I have three rapid fire questions,
Okay.
and then we can wrap
Conclude.
it up.
Okay.
Unless, is there anything else that you wanted to talk
Ooh.
about or say?
Ooh. Oh my gosh.
Do you feel
Do I have
satisfied?
yeah, do I have anything else that I want to say? I will say this. I think that you are very brave for following your bliss, like you said, and creating this podcast because, yeah, just hearing your inspiration about the patchwork thing, I think that's a beautiful image of like what you're trying to highlight with this podcast because I'm assuming you're getting various voices, various backgrounds, various experiences. And I just love the medium of podcast because it is something that feels very human and authentic in a very digital and potentially AI influenced world. So I appreciate spaces like this where true conversations can be had and also be seen and witnessed and allow for connection within our community because like there's something really powerful about being like, oh, I resonate with that oh, they're parents and they have to decide this or that. I had that conversation in my head all the time too. And so like to feel connected in that respect, I think it's really beautiful. So like kudos to you for like being like, I don't really know how this is gonna end up, but I'm just gonna do it anyway.
I appreciate that.
Because it feels good. So good job.
Thank you. That's very kind.
Yeah, no, I wish that more people were like that because I think we need more people to follow their authentic bliss, and this
Agreed.
world would be so different.
Yeah, I agree.
So, my ending thoughts.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. They might not be your ending
Oh,
thoughts
okay.
with our with our
rapid fire.
Yeah, they might spark whole other things, but we should probably we'll try to keep them.
We wrap it.
Well, we got it.
Wrap it.
It'll force you to give creative answers because it's shorter amount of time.
Okay.
First question. I have to remember my own questions. I have them in my list on my phone.
It's the same.
It's the same.
Okay.
It's the same ones. What's something you recently had to unlearn?
What is something that I recently had to unlearn? Oh, actually, this happened today, and so that's not something that it's like an instant thing, but it's in the works right now. But I learned about ambition and the idea that ambition could maybe be bad too. So ambition in general in this human capitalistic society. Let me give context here.
Yeah.
In this like society that we live in, especially America, like we praise people that are ambitious and like whatever means they take to get to a goal. They're like, wow, you're badass because you did that.
Yeah.
And like maybe it's not always the most ethical, right? But we're like, whoa, Steve Jobs, amazing, yes, cool. Whoa, Amazon guy, Bezos, let's go. Yes, right, you're awesome. And so we like praise these people that are like doing everything all at the same time and like never sleeping and all this stuff. But then like the opposite of ambition, not necessarily lack of ambition, but it's just like being present. And so like if you are ambitious and you're not always actively trying to like do something, be, optimize, that means you're just there. So like finding contentment and just being still is like really, really hard, actually. More hard than being ambitious, I think.
More hard.
So
Oof.
yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe my learning is, ambitious isn't always necessary and always good for me.
Yeah. We don't all have to boss bitch all the time.
Yeah.
We don't have to hustle all the time.
Right? Yes.
I hope that's not coming.
Blah.
So gross.
Ambitious. Blah.
Yeah, the word hustle, I used to be like, yeah, we're gonna hustle.
Right.
We're gonna make it. And now it makes me want to throw up a little bit.
Yes. Same.
Because we're not made for that. We're
No.
not designed to hustle all the time.
Yeah.
We were made to hustle, I guess, like at harvest time. You
Right.
know, like gather all this stuff before
Right.
winter.
Right.
And like plant all this stuff at spring.
Yes.
That's our hustle time, and every other time is just maintain.
Yeah, everything is just. Yeah.
What's something that made you super happy recently?
Super happy. Oh, well, so I teach a couple classes at UNT, and we're wrapping up our semester right now. And the end of the semester is always like precious because I try to like make it with my one class, which is called Stress Reduction Through Movement. I take these kids through a crazy, crazy experience of like connecting with their body, trying out different modalities. I really try to nurture a safe space with them to like really help them, allow them to like connect with their bodies, right? And so I ask them to do crazy shit all the time, with the intention of growth. But at the end of the term, that's when I start getting feedback where they're like, oh, I get it now. Or like, oh, like now I'm starting to do this in my life where I'm like doing breath work or EFT tapping when I'm like stressed or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, it's working. And so one of the best moments, this happens every term, but when the first part of class, day one, I ask them to take breaths together. We take 3 big breaths together, and then I start. And then by the end of the term, so back up. That day when I'm asking people to breathe, I'm the only one who's like doing an audible breath. Like breathing out is like, right?
Yeah.
And everybody else is like, like you can't hear it, right? Because like they don't want to be heard breathing. And then by the end of the term, all of them are like, and I'm like, yes, release. And so that small transformation like jazzes me so much. I'm like, yes, it worked. Like they're taking ownership over their wellness journey.
Yes.
So that was the moment where I got to like, see that again, and like it validates everything that I do throughout the term.
Oh,
so
it's a whole other podcast episode. Last question. I feel like I should switch the order of the questions, but what is your hottest take?
My hottest take. Like, what am I?
Anything. It can be silly. It can be serious. It can be.
What am I vibe? Hey, yeah. What am I? What's my thing right now? What's my thing? There's so many things in my brain right now. I think like, what's relevant right now to me is like presence. I think that like, also like putting a period to everything that I've said before, right, is like this is something that's challenging me right now, but I also see it as a global challenge where people are having a hard time being present. And that doesn't mean that we are dysfunctional or there's something wrong with us because we're not being present, but I think there's something that needs to be done to help us return to presence. Whatever that means.
Yeah.
So, presence.
We need more presence.
Yeah. That's it.
Tyler, do you have anything to add? What's your hot take? She's very vocal.
She is.
And she was not so vocal today, but I think she, like in the mornings, like sometimes we walk consistently and then sometimes we don't. But mornings are when she's usually like hanging around like hey, it's time for our walk now. And I think she
Uh-huh.
will literally hold in her poop as long as she can
Whoa.
for us to go on a walk so she can go poop
do
on a
it.
walk.
Oh,
So she'll like be
wow.
like, "Arr, arr, arr," at me, and I'm like, can you just go poop outside in our backyard, please? I'm
She
not
likes
taking
the
you on a
walk
walk
poop.
right now. She likes the walk poop.
Because it's, she gets to spread her aura.
Yeah. Thanks for being on my podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It was so fun.
It was fun.
I
I
love
forget that we
talking
have
to you.
so many
We have a lot of patches that are
I
in
know.
common.
Yeah.
A lot of things cut from the same cloth.
I know. Yeah. We really do need to collaborate sometime.
I would love that. Or have more play dates.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you.
Subscribe and see you
Like
in the
it.
next episode.
Comment below.
I still don't have a tagline, so
Oh.
crowdsourcing that if you have any good ones.
Patchwork, peace out.